Well, tuning into today's video, we're going to have a look at the weather for the next 8 to 10 days. In today's video, sort of next week or so, it's going to be turning colder. I spoke about this in the video yesterday. We're going to have northerly winds starting to push down from the middle of the week. There will be some wintry conditions coming through, and also some very wintry conditions over on the eastern side of America. We'll have a quick look at that in a moment as well. And also, we'll have a look at the stratosphere. Bit of a warming going to be taking place this week in the stratosphere over North Pole. Could be an even bigger warming going on next week, so it's all getting very, very interesting. Before I get on with that, to say about the ads, there's links to articles on most of the pages at gazwebs.com. Have a browse through the widgets. Any articles that you're interested in, please click through and give the article and read those articles. At the same time, you're having to support Gazwebs. Thanks so much for doing that. Generally, just have to play around with the ads. They're there for your enjoyment, really, and to help pay for the website. So click through any of the ads that you're interested in, and you'll be helping to support Gazwebs. Thanks so much for getting on and doing that. Right, we better get on with the video because lots to discuss today. We're going to start off with the temperature in the stratosphere over the North Pole, and this is for the end of this week. This is the stratospheric temperature over North Pole, at the top of the atmosphere, very top of the atmosphere. We see that we've got a bit of a warming already by the end of this week occurring across Siberia. This is for the 30th of January, so on Friday. As we run through, we see that warming intensifies and pushes into the North Pole. It's not a sudden stratospheric warming map, but it is a major warming that's occurring there, pushing out of Siberia and in towards the pole. But then things intensify beyond that. So we move through to the 3rd of February, and there is that first warming. That pushes through in towards the central part of the North Pole. And then you notice this next warming beginning to occur again from the same place over towards Siberia. And that takes a very similar track into the North Pole, all while pushing these blue colours out in towards Europe. You'll notice that is sort of the root of the polar vortex. That's being pushed down in towards Europe, and there comes the red colours there over Siberia. So that's a real sudden stratospheric warming beginning to take place there on the 8th of February. A long way off, it may not come off, but that's a very major sudden stratospheric warming event occurring, and that pushes into the central part of the North Pole as well by the time we go through to the 11th of February. So by the 11th of February, we have got a very, very warm stratosphere over the North Pole, and all of this cold stratospheric temperatures are being pushed down in towards the mid-latitudes. That's indicative of the idea that eventually we could get blocking setting up over the top of the pole and starting to push down that cold air into the mid-latitude. So things are looking very interesting in terms of the stratospheric temperature over the next couple of weeks. We'll keep monitoring it and see how it develops. I think these warmings that we've been seeing all winter, really, generally quite weak warmings, but we have been getting warmings all winter occurring in the stratosphere, starting off around Siberia. I think it all ties back to that very rapid increase in snow cover that we had across Siberia and the Russian plain through October. I think it's sort of, we're seeing the feedbacks coming through now in terms of these sudden stratospheric warmings, or in terms of these stratospheric warmings anyway. We'll see whether this sudden stratospheric warming occurs during the first week of February. Now, things very interesting in the United States. We're going to be hearing a lot about blizzards on the eastern coast. Got a proper northeaster setting up there. This is the GFS chart for 6 o'clock this evening. We've got low pressure across the eastern side of America. Look what happens as we run through the next few hours. The low pressure intensifies off the eastern seaboard, pulls in a gale force, maybe in severe gale force, northerly, northeasterly wind, and that's a proper snowmaker. That's one of the classics. In this country, our classic sort of snowmaker for England is the Channel Low, when you get a Channel Low racing through the English Channel, engaging cold air, producing heavy snow and blizzards, kind of thing we had around the new year of 1978, 1979. In America, on the east side of America, the snowmaker, their equivalent to our Channel Low, is the northeaster. They get these areas of low pressures pushing up the eastern seaboard, producing these severe gales, and the low pressure, of course, produces lots and lots of heavy snow as cold air comes out of Canada. So things get really quite severe by tomorrow on the east side of America. They're going to be absolutely buried in places like Boston, maybe New York City, and certainly upland area is going to be absolutely hammered by this snowstorm through the course of tomorrow. Look at the upper air temperatures. You see how this occurs. You've got the very warm air out across the Atlantic Ocean, tied in with the Gulf Stream, engaging with this severely cold air coming out of Canada. The two air masses fuel the low pressure, and that's what causes the snow, the blizzards, and the severe gales. And then, would you believe they may do it all over again at the end of this week? This is the chart for Saturday the 31st of January, and there we are again, another northeaster, this time a little bit further north, but even so, the suggestion is there that there's more heavy snow occurring on the eastern and northeastern coast of America. After that, they may drop the polar vortex down into America, so they're really in for it. Here we are on Sunday, and you see that these purple colours up here over Canada, that is the polar vortex, and that could be on its way down into northern eastern parts of America by the time you go through to Monday the 2nd. That cold air is really starting to push through, and look at those upper air temperatures. That is the polar vortex. We're seeing a little bit in the papers today that apparently we're going to get the polar vortex. I can assure you we're not going to get the polar vortex dropping in over us over the next few days, because we're not seeing anything like this in terms of cold weather. It will be turning colder, don't get me wrong, but nothing like this that you get when the real polar vortex decides to take up residence down in the mid-latitudes. We had it in December 2010. It's a very rare event for us, but it looks like the polar vortex will be paying a visit to northern and eastern central parts of the United States probably next week. This is the 500 millibar height anomaly flow chart. We've got the ECMWF here on the left, the GFS is over on the right. 500 millibars, 8,000 feet is where weather is taking place. High pressure, low pressure being moved around by the jet stream. Blue extrapolating to low pressure, red extrapolating to high pressure. And this is the polar vortex here coming through down into northern and eastern parts of the United States with this very deep trough that's occurring. This is for 8 to 10 days time. By the way, so this takes us in towards around the 5th or 6th of February, so going into the first week of February. That is the polar vortex dropping through Canada into towards the eastern part of the United States. And then we've got this trough around British Isles and to the east of British Isles. Now, this is a cold trough of low pressure. I don't think really it contains the polar vortex. Maybe some pieces of energy broken off the polar vortex, if you like, but it's not the true PV sitting there across eastern parts and central parts of Europe. Nevertheless, it's a cold trough of low pressure, and coming around that, we're pulling the winds into the north, possibly the northeast, so it will be turning a good deal colder from midweek onwards into the weekend and then on into next week. The GFS very similar with that idea. The deep trough there containing elements of the PV across Canada and the United States, and then this trough to the east and southeast of the United Kingdom, which may contain pieces of energy off the PV but isn't the true polar vortex. But both of them really are in agreement that it will be turning a good deal colder over the coming few days, over the week, over the middle part of the week and into the weekend. The temperature anomaly for the coming week shows that it's going to be colder than average. This is from the 26th to the 3rd of February, and yeah, blue colours there across the British Isles, most of Central Western Europe actually turning colder than average through the coming week. The warmth is over in the east and the northeast of Europe. The precipitation anomaly shows that it's going to be drier than average. You would expect it because we're in a northerly flow blocking off the Atlantic, but there will be precipitation coming through at times, and that will provide at least the chance of snow. So going on in towards the generic charts, this is for Friday the 30th of January. You've got this trough of low pressure to the northeast of Scotland pulling down this northerly, northeasterly wind across the country, or northwesterly wind I should say across the country. That will bring wintry showers into the north and the west. The low pressure sinks down across the country as we go through into Saturday. That could enhance the shower risk, maybe bring some longer spells of rain, sleet or snow through. We go through to Sunday the 2nd, Sunday the 1st of February, first day of the new month, and we're into that northerly flow band, bring down a very cold northerly high pressure blocking off the Atlantic, and there could be snow showers being driven southwards on that northerly wind. Moving through into next week, it stays cold, northerly winds persist throughout, and we've got a little area of low pressure in the flow developing around Iceland, that to push it southwards through the early part of next week. That will bring a risk of snow, heavy snow potentially, to many parts of the country. If that did come off, it's a long way off, it's a week away, it probably won't even develop by the time we get to this time frame, but if it did come off like that, that would bring heavy snow to many parts of the country early next week. And then we keep it cold as we run out to day 10. This is for Thursday the 5th of November, and high pressure is in then across the country, so it's mainly settled by then, but it would be very cold and very frosty. Notice this high pressure up over Russia, by the way, at 1065 millibars, a very, very deep Siberian high, pushing out of Siberia in towards western Russia. We've got to keep an eye on that, because with this high pressure ridging through the UK, what could happen with this, and it's an unusual event, it doesn't come off very often, but what can occasionally happen is that these two areas of high pressure could sort of form one very large blocking area of high pressure somewhere to the north of the country. If that was to happen, that would lock us into a very cold spell, because we would drag the winds into the east, and because the block is so intense, that would be a prolonged sort of cold spell. So keep an eye on that. We've got to watch what that high pressure over Russia is doing. It's very intense there by Thursday the 5th, day 10 at 1065 millibars. It wouldn't take all that much to form a very large block somewhere to the north and the northeast of the country. Finally, the east MWF for Friday, we're bringing down that northerly, northwesterly flow. We go through into the weekend, keep it cold with northerly winds, troughs coming down in the flow, enhancing the shower risk. There will be a risk of sleet and snow in places. We won't know until we get to the time frame where that's occurring. Then it brings this area of low pressure down from Iceland. This is quite a consistent trend with the east MWF. You have to do this. An area of low pressure moves into that cold air, brings a risk of snow across many parts of the country, and on Tuesday the 3rd of February, quite a major area of low pressure is sitting off the coast of East Anglia. That would produce a lot of snow if that came off. We go through in towards Wednesday the 4th of February and Thursday the 5th, day 10. And there's that idea I was talking about, the Azores high out in the west, ridging through Central Europe in towards this area of high pressure that's up towards Russia. We're just about on the mild side of it, but a very slight adjustment with that, and we would start to put in really cold easterly winds. So in the long term, we've got to watch out what's happening with that area of high pressure up across Russia. And that could tie in with the stratospheric warming, of course. Shorter term, it's the northerly we're interested in. We're going to get this northerly on Wednesday, or starting Wednesday, going to last through the second half of the week, into weekend, on into next week. There will be a risk of snow coming down with that northerly as troughs of low pressure form and enhance the shower risk. Where that happens, we won't know until near the time frame. But if you like it cold, we're entering the most interesting part of the winter so far. I think there's going to be certainly wintry conditions around the sun, and just keep checking back to the website for more updates. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.